even if you go to trial, you get, let's say it's just custody and child support. You get a day and a half. So that means you have 3 hours to tell your entire life story of your children, how great of a parent you are. And I actually try to only do that. A lot of other attorneys also then want to tell how horrible the other parent is. So now we have this litany of how bad they are. I've won several cases on just saying, they're not that bad of a parent. Here's how I'm awesome, but here's how they're not that bad. Like, or I just don't say very much about it. And the judge is like, well, I see how you can co-parent. I see how you could care for kids together. And it's ended up, I mean, that's not every case. There are some people we definitely need to talk about their pitfalls and how it's not safe for children. And I don't mean to minimize that case, but that's not most of the cases.
That's the exception. Yeah. Not the rule.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I tell people that don't bring me a binder of how awful your spouse is. I don't necessarily need all those details. You can pay me to read through the binder, but you won't have satisfaction from that.
Okay. So just to kind of summarize what we've talked about so far. So it's helpful if they have some knowledge of the legal process and where they live. It's helpful if they have their arms around their finances in some way and come prepared in that way. And then it's also helpful if they can kind of separate the emotions of divorce from the business of divorce and not load you up with all that emotional stuff. Take that elsewhere to a therapist or a divorce coach or somebody who can help you process through those emotions.
I think that those are great tips for sure. I think with that maybe knowledge, it would be maybe some realistic expectations of what you could get. And I think you said earlier, and then maybe one of the last things would be, you said fighting for the emotional justice. I feel like as long as people know fighting for the principle of the matter is the most expensive fight you will ever have, and it will leave you empty because there is no such thing. Our justice system does its best, but it's not meant for families. It's meant for businesses and other sort of monetary transactions, not child custody transactions. So you will be empty, and there might not ever be an opportunity for you to lay it all out there. It might be something you just have to process on your own.
Yeah. And, having said that, something just came to mind. Another attorney friend of mine mentioned that if you walk away, let's just say you end up in mediation, which is where most divorce cases, in my experience, end up in mediation or in a collaborative situation, which we can talk about. But if you walk away feeling a little bit dissatisfied, then that means you did a good thing. You negotiated. So you're probably not ever going to walk away feeling like we're ready to do cartwheels because you feel like you really won in a sense. You're going to probably have to give up something in that negotiation.
Yes.
Okay. If you wouldn't mind describing a little bit, what I find in terms of legal divorces, they fall in 3 camps. That's mediation, collaboration, or litigation. So kind of high-level overview of those 3 different types of divorces.
Mediation is, I think the majority of the cases that I do are mediation cases. Either just you and your spouse, or you and an attorney and your spouse and an attorney go to a mediator's office, or they come to you. The mediator usually is shuttling back and forth to help you negotiate. That mediator does not need to hear all of your woes. They do not need to hear the whole history of the case because they're not making decisions. They're helping you make decisions. Their job is to get an agreement. So they're going to try to figure out maybe your fears and play into that, figure out your strengths and play into that to try to get you to an agreement. And that can be an expensive day to pay lawyers and mediators, but it's way less expensive than court. So I think the main thing I try to train my clients is they don't need to know all the details about all of the stuff and why you want what you want. You can tell them a little bit of context, but again, you're paying them by the hour, you're paying your lawyers by the hour. But that mediation approach is for people that are willing to negotiate, so willing to give some stuff up, not thinking la la land, like this is my best day in court and this is what I want. So that would be mediation. You'll usually leave with something signed, whether it's the full agreement or you're signing kind of like here's our contract agreement. We'll sign the full agreement later. Sometimes clients can settle pieces of their divorce. So I've left settlements where we've decided the equitable distribution portion, and then we haven't settled these other things, or we've settled custody and child support, but we haven't settled. So we'll call it piecemeal. We've piecemeal settled. And sometimes I've mediated two or three times in cases if we need more time.
What I wanted to pipe in there, I think some people think that the mediator may be swayed somehow by their narcissistic partner. And I actually spoke to a mediator friend of mine about that because it comes up so often with my clients. And she was like, sure, they can sway us. They can charm our pants off. But our goal, it won't make any difference. Our goal is to help them come to an agreement. And we aren't making the decision for them. They are. And if they don't like what's being presented to them, they always have the option of saying, I don't like that. So it doesn't really matter what my opinion is of that other person.
That is really, really great to kind of discuss here, because my clients want that too. Like, what's our strategy? Are we going first? I want to tell my story first. And I try to let them know this is maybe the most power you as the client have ever had, because you have the power to just say no. And no is the complete sentence. That's it. Say no. I do not like your offer. In a couple cases with, I don't know if it's like therapeutically designated narcissist on the other side, but the client says they're narcissist. Our power was that we just got up and we walked out the door. And I don't think that my clients had ever experienced that. Like, we're not getting anywhere with negotiating. You're not modifying or moving the needle in any way. And we just got up. And she was like, we can? Yes, we can. This is your money. This is your case. We 100% can. And in one scenario, we were waiting for the elevator and they're like, wait. And we went back and we ended up settling. And it wasn't a power move. We were really done. Like, that was not the strategy. But if you don't want to negotiate, then we don't have to negotiate. We tried, we thought we'd be here, but you have the power to say no to every offer, and you have the power to walk away.
Exactly. Okay. So that's mediation. Yes. Now let's talk about collaboration.
Collaboration can look so different in every lawyer's head. But the formal way of collaboration is that both parties have an attorney, and then there's a neutral coach, whether that's a therapist or a divorce coach, but that person, and then a neutral financial person. So someone that's going to look at the family's financials and figure out how we divide what we have in a way that both parties are going to be okay. No one's going to be a pauper. Everyone's going to be able to financially succeed. And they're not looking for dad's success or mom's success or husband or wife. They're looking at the family. How is everyone going to be okay? And then the coach is kind of modifying or almost like facilitating, like the MC, or modifying or managing the emotions of the system of the process. So in those collaborative cases, sometimes I've had people in separate rooms like mediation, but most of the time they're in the same room. And what's sometimes uncomfortable for me, and maybe clients too, is that's where some of the emotions come out. You might feel more heard in a collaborative case because you get to voice, here's what's happening, here's how I'm feeling. And I've been through couples therapy with my husband, and I can't imagine what it's like to have that as your job at couples therapy, where you're like, let the emotions rise. This is where the good stuff is. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is feeling really uncomfortable. But it's actually where magic happens. Like, you get it out, you've said it, and it's almost like, okay, now I can actually deal with the thing that we need to deal with, or make the agreement that we need to make. So it's also a safe environment. Like, I've had a scenario where it felt like unsafe. They let the emotions rise in a healthy way, but as soon as it became unhealthy, then they nipped it in the bud right away. Yeah. And those are shorter meetings. So mediation, I have a mediation that was from 9 o'clock until 8 o'clock at night. Exhausting. Collaboration is like 2-hour blocks, maybe a 3-hour block. So you get to walk away, process, and come back. Walk away, process, and come back. Sometimes that's a better fit for people. You'll feel more heard. You'll have more time. It doesn't feel like you're making decisions out of exhaustion and just wanting to go home. And then you're not paying two financial people to come to an agreement or to create resolutions for your family's finances. You have one person. So that's a lower cost with the financial aspect, maybe a higher cost with the other professionals that you have to pay. But I've seen good things come of that.
Of the collaborative process. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, of course, litigation we've kind of already covered, but that's where you end up in court and it's more of a battle, legal battle, so to speak. Okay.
In some of my cases, I have done a scenario where we've tried mediation and mediation wasn't successful. And at least in Mecklenburg, we have these temporary hearings that you can achieve or obtain. So you can get a temporary custody arrangement potentially, or you can get temporary child support or temporary post-separation support, which is like temporary alimony. And sometimes I've transitioned a case from litigation right back to mediation, because once you go through that litigation process, it's almost like this is like an enlightening moment. This is really what could happen. I really could only see my kids this amount, or maybe that's the other person's understanding now. Same with support. I really am going to have to live off this much, or I am going to have to pay this much. Feels like we then come back to the mediation table with different colored lenses that we're looking at the situation. If it does go to litigation, I'd still have this goal of transitioning it back to mediation once everybody has like a better understanding of the reality of this.